Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business, the podcast where we delve into the financial strategies and insights that drive success for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and in each episode we bring you expert guests who share practical advice, real-world experiences, and actionable tips to empower you on your business journey. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, get ready to uncover the secrets to success and gain valuable insights into the business behind your business. So welcome back to another episode of The Business Behind Your Business. And today it's quite an exciting day because as we're recording this, it's the 27th of June and we're looking at it being World Micro and Small Medium Enterprise Day. Now that is a mouthful, but it's something to celebrate worldwide. And if you go back into the archives 12 months ago, we were talking to the Small Business Ombudsman, Bruce Bilson, about small and medium businesses and why they should be celebrated. And look, I'm quite excited today because I'm going back to my past, and I've reached out to one of the men in my past, or I say men, at the time we met, he was only just a little bit older than me, and he still is just a little bit older than me. But looking at a guy that I had a lot of great conversations with while I was at university, looked to him for some knowledge, and I've tapped into him again to share his knowledge with you today. So I'm going to welcome a great guest and a friend, Inbam Devadason, to the podcast. And look, Inbam and I share, I guess, a passion for helping small, medium business owners. And that's something that I'm excited about, and I know Inbam is. And once you start to hear what he says and how he's working with them, you'll see that as well. But just to put a bit more perspective here is it will give you a bit more background on Inbam. So Inbam is an author. Love having authors on the show, on the podcast. Father of four, which is something else we share in common. Owner of Sydney the Labradoodle. Over 30 years experience in the financial services industry. And I guess we'll have a quick chat about that, your history there, Inbam, because that's quite interesting to see the journey that you've gone through. Now, some of you might identify with this. Inbam loves to travel, been to over 30 countries already, aiming to get to 50 by 2035. So it's a bit of a challenge there. We'll see how we might tap in and see how it goes. Lived in many different cities in Australia. So currently residing in Melbourne, which he says is his second favourite place. We need to find out what's the first.
Second to Perth. Perth was
second to Perth. Now I wonder why Perth is the number one there.
Lifestyle city.
Lifestyle city, yes. I think it's also a city of origin. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, something I didn't know is that that you've actually conquered Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, look, 6 kilometres high, a little bit cold at the top, but certainly a great adventure.
I'm certainly envious because that's an amazing achievement. Which, look. Let's digress and find out what was the reason for doing that. Why?
So look, I'm 52 now. I'm glad I did it when I was about 35 because I don't think I could do it now. But look, my wife and I actually took some time off. We did a 15-week trip around the world, and we thought we need a little bit of adventure in there. So it's a 3.5-day trek up and 1.5 days down. Quite challenging at the very top and sort of 0 degrees. But yeah, look, it was good fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. It sounds like a great experience. So, Inbam, you mentioned 52. I'm 52. And look, we're going to be talking about this whole idea of transferring wealth. So we've labelled this the Great Wealth Transfer. But there was a statistic, and I couldn't put my finger on where exactly I got this from, but I think in terms of small business ownership in Australia, over 50% are owned by business owners who are over 50. And on the other end of the spectrum, though, we've only got 8% being owned by business owners who are under the age of 30. So we've got a large skew towards older business owners. And when we think that there's 2.6 million small, medium businesses registered in Australia, we've got such a large skew there. Now, one of the questions I'm often asked, and so as an accountant, I'm often asked, how do I sell or exit from my business, or how do I transfer the business ownership to the next generation? And that's something that I know that you've published some articles on, you've been quite passionate about. So, why is it such a big deal for you, and something that you're so passionate about?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting topic, and that whole succession planning is a really, interesting topic. And I think touch on the age of business. Look, I started my business at age 35, and I think often people, get a bit of corporate world experience, and then when they feel they have enough experience, will go into, a small business of some sort, at that point in time. So look, my business, we've got 4 people in the business. I have myself as the senior advisor and one junior advisor, and certainly my plan is in the next couple of years to put on another junior advisor. So I think one transition path is where you put on professionals, who are more junior, who can grow within the business, and then share those client relationships, be trusted by the existing clients, and gradually take on, a shareholding in the business and that sort of thing. So that's the plan for me, going that path. I'm sure you can share some accounting stories. Within financial planning, there tends to be probably that as one path. One of the other main paths in financial planning is because often financial planning businesses are aggregating. What we're finding is often a merger or a takeover from an institutional shareholder is another path. But one of the key things is that the business needs to move from just being reliant on one person to having good business processes, a good range of people, to be able to move to be more corporatized, to make the succession planning, I think, easier. I think that's a key item.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a lot of. So you've talked about a very traditional model of ownership coming in, but what I'm seeing, and so one of the experiences we've seen is that often the next generation don't want to participate in the family business, and often the next generation coming through also don't want to buy into an existing business. So we've got some, I guess, a bit of a dilemma there that we need to address.
Yeah. I think that's right. So let's look at the 2 models. The one is you grow people in-house. Let's look at that for a minute. So certainly my intention in my own business is that the junior advisors in the business, if this works for them, is that we get to a point where they're already on bonus schemes, and then they would have the option for their bonus scheme to actually buy shares in the business. So recognizing, they're younger and might not have the capital to be able to get into the business, that is my thinking in terms of the way that they access a little bit of the business over time. What I am seeing in networking with other financial planning businesses is that the merger with maybe other small businesses creates a range of shareholders. I'm seeing that larger businesses are starting to not only give the financial advisors shareholding, but potentially paraplanners, potentially people at the customer service sort of end of things, just to retain staff over the long term. So I think people are being a little bit more open-minded in terms of the breadth of ownership within the business.
Mm. And so with that ownership, so there's a couple of different ways there. So a couple of things you mentioned, talking about bonuses and shares, allocating shares as part of the bonus, which sort of alleviates that need to come up with large capital sums, which is becoming a burden for a lot of, well, for everybody. So that's one way, and the second way is sharing that ownership across a bigger number of investors. Now, so 2 options there were sort of minimizing that capital expenditure and also diversifying risk, which makes it a lot easier. Because in the past, I know very early on, when I was in my early 30s, asked the question of the partner in the accounting firm I was working for, so what's going to be involved to become an owner of the business? And the figure he mentioned, I thought, was quite staggering. Mm. I can't remember if it was 7 figures or just under, but I was staggered, and I thought, well, that's not going to happen. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So I'm going to have to look at an alternative option. And certainly if there was an option there of, gradual acquisition or part acquisition through shareholding, that may have been a lot more attractive to me at that time. But certainly the option presented was a massive lump sum versus walk away. And I couldn't do the lump sum, so I had to walk away.
Yeah. Look, that is interesting. And you touch on another aspect, which is the whole valuation aspect. And so that can be a big challenge. I've seen that with other people, your sort of scenario, that walk away sort of scenario, where basically there's a very big gap in the valuation as well, aside from acquiring gradually. And that's where there needs to be agreement. So, and that's where getting an independent consultant in obviously can be useful to sort of say, what are the market metrics? And the market metrics for an accounting firm versus a mortgage broking or a financial planning business will be slightly different. So to get that independent view and to first of all get to a point where both the existing owner and the potential owner can agree to a valuation that is reasonable in both people's minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that we've got that idea that we have to have an agreed value, at which point you buy in. Now, so we've talked a bit about financial planning, accounting, professional services type firms. I know that you've been actively involved in advising, business owners who have got different kinds of businesses as well. So what are some of the issues that they faced around transferring wealth?
Yeah, sure. So you touched on a little bit, especially for small businesses, maybe less than 10 staff, that sort of situation, the family succession. So, maybe historically, whether it be a farming business, whether it be a retail business, I think often families have done the succession planning, within the family. But I think you're right. I think as people pursue a broader range of careers, the children of business owners, I think often they're not interested in, being involved in the business necessarily and that sort of thing. So what I've probably seen is that, at some point, probably in their 50s, they'll identify, is there a child who is interested in succeeding? And obviously, if that's the case, you've got to actually actively work on that and make sure they've got the skills to be able to take the business to the next stage. And if there isn't, then it's really looking at, are there other people in the business that can move forward and take on leadership roles? And then if that's not available, is there then a merger type opportunity with a similar business to create that succession plan? I think are probably the three parts that I'm seeing people explore. Probably the key point would be it's a 10 to 15 year journey. So you really do need to start the process quite early and make sure that, the right people, the right processes are in place to be able to gradually move to that succession plan.
Yeah. So going back to just one of those comments that you mentioned right at the beginning was talking about having a business that works independently of the owner with good systems and processes. And that takes time to take a traditional business model, particularly a traditional business model that those of us on the other side of 50 would be used to working with and grown up with, to a business where it is independent of the owner. And that does take time. You've mentioned 10 to 15 years. Our conversation with people is that you've got to start your exit planning at least 3 years before you do. And I know that I've just gone through the process of advising a purchaser of a business, and I've looked at it and went, well, really, there's a lot of opportunity here because the exiting business owner hasn't put in place a lot of the systems and processes. So there's the exiting business owner, or the seller in this case, has left a lot of value on the table for the purchaser by not having the systems, the independence or independent employees creating value processes. So there's a lot of planning that needs to happen, not just planning, but also that implementing those plans over time. And it takes time.
Look, absolutely. And look, one aspect that we've been looking at in our own business has been the benefits of networking. So I know on your podcast you have a broad range of people, across various industries, which is very helpful. So two things that we've done. One is business networking for new business. So working with accountants, mortgage brokers, property people, across the different industries for that constant, flow of business. That's one aspect. within financial planning, I joined the Macquarie Virtual Advisor Network. And so the idea of that is that you are with other practices that maybe operate slightly differently, but are going through the same challenges about how do we get operational efficiency, how do we manage and develop staff, all of those sorts of things. And basically the idea of that network, it's 5 Melbourne-based financial planning groups, basically sharing ideas, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses. So where we've got a strength, we can share with the other group to say what we're doing well. Where we don't have a strength in that area, we can listen to the other practices to sort of see what they're doing well. And so I was part of that program for 12 months and found that a really useful exercise to sort of see the areas that we needed to focus on to be better in terms of, process and systems and so forth. And I think really the key thing is having people and systems. So within financial planning, there's a wide range of systems available. Having a good CRM where all of the information related to a client is there. It's not sitting in somebody's head, that it is really there in the system, that everybody knows their role, whether it be the client service person, the paraplanner, the financial advisor. And so the role clarity is there so that nothing is missed in the process. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And you talked just there about getting the knowledge out of the principal's head or the owner's head, which is such a key thing, because I've worked in a lot of accounting firms, but also seen in a lot of businesses where decisions can't be made or work cannot be finalized because there's missing information that is sitting inside the owner's head, not freely accessible. And you limit, well, not just the value on your exit, but I guess the value of the profits you're creating over time by withholding that information.
Yeah, look, that's right, and that's why I sort of talked about that 10 to 15 years, because look, it does take time to iron out those sorts of things. It does take time to get the right people in the business, but more importantly, in this day and age, turnover is quite high with staff in a lot of businesses. So, so what we have done is, once a staff member has been with us for 6 to 12 months, we've put them on a bonus scheme straight away, because we are looking to retain our staff for hopefully a decade or more. That's ideal, and we've had good traction there. And I figure that if you're rewarding staff for hitting the key milestones that the business needs to hit, you will keep those staff. They will be happy. Another part of it is the business has to keep growing to give the opportunities to the younger staff. If it's growing, then you're recruiting more staff. You can recruit at the lower level and give your medium level staff the opportunity to rise up to the next level. So that's really important as well, to have that growth, to be able to give a career path for the people who are coming up in the business.
Mm-hmm. So, growth there to provide opportunities. And we've seen, I guess, a lot of businesses, if we compare their financial results for the past 4 or 5 years, they were either very stagnant or there was actually a decline. Whereas, that is not going to attract the best quality talent or keep them there, because they're not going to be seeing many opportunities, but you've got to create those opportunities. And to create those opportunities, you've got to be involved in planning the direction you want to go to, and making that happen.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, I think another aspect as well is the way that you price your service. So we in our business, the business has been going for 18 years. About 2 years ago, we felt that we were at a price level that was lower than the market, and we felt that our service was above the market in terms of the way that we were providing it. So I actually networked with a whole lot of financial advisors to just get a feel for where service sits and where pricing sits. And we found we were materially lower in our pricing. So we went through an exercise to reprice all our existing clients, as well as obviously reset the new business price, because that's important to be priced at the right level to be able to afford the resources to keep the business going, as well as generate the right level of profit for succession planning and so forth. So that was a really helpful exercise to do. We got some external people to help us with both the pricing and the communication of the pricing strategy. In some cases, we lifted clients' price by 100% over a 2-year period. And we only lost 2 clients. We had a 98% retention rate because we got the strategy right. And that is not an easy exercise to lift prices significantly, but it's important that you are adding value for clients so that they can see the value, and the value is greater than the price that they are paying for the service. So getting your pricing right, reviewing that, is an important thing to do at points in time.
Okay. Yeah. So pricing appropriately, because we see a lot of businesses underpricing or are being reluctant to pass on pricing for fear of losing clients. And I think I've shared this situation before with our listeners, but I'll repeat it here. Years ago, I think probably going back 17 years ago now, I was dealing with a client and we were looking at why he was not growing his profit. He was doing it very busy, not growing his profit. And it came down to, I asked him, like, when was the last time you put up your prices? And he identified that 7 years prior, when GST came in, they redid their pricing. So for 7 years, he hadn't been increasing his prices. His costs had been going up. So he had to do more activity to make the same profit. So I challenged him and I said, look, if we increased your price by 1%, this is the impact on your profit, which was quite substantial at that time because very low profit. But so I think we went from $40 and I said $40.40. And he says, you can't do that. You can't charge $40.40. And I said, well, charge $50. So he said, no. And at this point, his arms came unfolded and a smile appeared on his face and said, I'm going to charge $60 because it divides better into half-hour lots. So he's gone from $40 to $60, so a 50% increase. So 4 weeks later, I had a same conversation, or similar conversation. I said, how many people complained about the price rise? None. How many clients did you lose? None. The next question was, how disappointed are you with yourself that you didn't put up your price years ago? He said, extremely. That's the PG version of what he said. But
yes.
But there's a lot of opportunities in there. And we're not just talking about price, but he also identified with him opportunities that he would do a lot of effort, expend a lot of effort getting that customer for the first time, making that initial sale, but then never contacting them about servicing and maintenance, which was also an opportunity. So as soon as he went back to that database and contacted, the number of clients that were purchasing the servicing and maintenance services from him increased.
Yes.
But that was very easy work to win. So there are some opportunities within every business, I think.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I'll just touch on a growing the customer side of things. So financial planning is quite unique in that you look after a client, and I suppose potentially you can get referrals, obviously not only from their friends, but other family members. So we focus in financial planning on that 45 to 60 age group, that pre-retirement group. They might have 5 to 15 years to retirement, and our focus is getting them retirement ready, making sure they have enough funds to retire the way that they would like to, or transition to retirement in the way that they would like to. So one of the things we did with our service offering is we, within the practice, have a specialty in aged care advice. So if any of those clients' parents need some assistance, we can provide that add-on service. I'm a mortgage broker as well. So if anybody needs that mortgage broking or loan service, we can do that. So often, our first discussion with one of the children of our existing clients is, they want to purchase their first home. And so building up some savings to buy that first home. So we've certainly got the services that can help people at that level. So although our focus is 45 to 60, we can help people who are 18 to 90. And so that is quite helpful in terms of clients when they're looking to refer a friend or family member, they know that we can help in all of those situations. And so there's that automatic opportunity to service a broader range of clients just by servicing your existing clients well.
Yeah, so by focusing on a core strategy, there are some additional, revenue streams that tie into that neatly. But I think what I'm hearing from you is that you're not going and actively chasing those markets. You're focusing on a customer, and then you've got the, I guess, the fries that go with that, the add-ons that are available to that original customer that you're targeting.
Yeah, correct. So look, that's the approach, and I suppose in business, generally having a niche, what works quite well, and then you've just got to decide, do you want to play in those add-on services? And for us, we felt that made sense, and it means that we can look after a broader range of people within a family. Broader family unit, which actually we find tends to help with retention as well, because of that broader connection that you have with the extended family.
Mm. And so I just want to touch on that because you're talking about the extended family there. By bringing in the younger members of the family, does that help with the conversations you have around transferring wealth, transferring business assets?
Yeah, look, absolutely. So maybe I'll focus a little bit more on the personal wealth for a minute, and then we can touch on the business wealth as well. So I might share a couple of examples which sort of just will clarify it. So we had a situation where we had a long-term client. She was in her 70s. She had been a widow for a long period of time, and then suddenly in her 70s, she was actually quite healthy. She passed away. So we had worked with a lawyer in the past, been involved in the estate planning sort of side of things. And so what we did was her two children, who were the executors of the will, we quoted to assist them over that period of administering the will and the assets. And so we worked very closely with them. Over that time, the two children really saw how well we'd managed their mum's assets, and how the process of transferring things to them was fairly straightforward and managed very well. We were able to help and knew a lot of the history of what had happened, even things like cost bases on shares and things like that. And so what happened is through that estate process, which took about 12 months to get everything through to the kids, both of those kids became clients. And so we were able to continue to manage the wealth of that family. Now, what had also happened was our original client had set up a $50,000 investment account for each of the 5 grandchildren. So we manage that as well. And so we're already educating these children who are, 10 to 18 on what to think about when they start their first job and all of those sorts of things. So we're very big on educating the next generation so that they will come and see us as well, and hopefully we can help them. But as a business, we will be managing this original client's money for probably 2 or 3 generations at least.
Yeah, so that's great. So just coming back to some of the key points you've got there is you've got to have the conversations, and you're talking about a long-term plan because obviously you've been looking after that client for a long time.
Correct.
Before you were able to have the conversations. And I'm guessing that when you first started working with that client, the positioning would not have maybe enabled the ease of transfer of wealth to the next generation. That there would have been a plan needed to be executed.
Yeah. So look, I think it's really being. It's like business processes. It's around just making sure you've got all the touch points there to enable the process. So let me just step back. So when we get a client on board, the nature of financial planning is we do a very detailed fact-find conversation. When we're doing that fact-find conversation, we make sure we know all the details of the children. We make sure we actually know the high-level details of the parents as well, so that we know the situation that they are in. Being a small business, I actually like doing some of my meetings at clients' homes. Now, not everybody does that. They prefer, an office or virtual. But one of the reasons I do the home visits is it's a more relaxed environment. You get a deeper conversation, but you also get to meet other family members. Now, in an office situation, you only meet with the clients typically. So I like that incidental meeting other family members because you're already starting to build a little bit of rapport with them. Then we take the next step of we say to clients, look, as soon as your children are in that 15 to 20 age bracket and they're starting to get their first part-time job or first full-time job, get them to come along and see us, and we provide a free education session for them. Now, the idea behind that education session is to just tell them, what are the different asset classes? When you get your first job, should you invest in cash? Should you be in fixed interest? Should you be investing longer term? What are your goals? And so we just give them that education around how to even make the most of the little that they have. But then we'll also say to them, look, when you get your first job, come and see us. We'll make sure you've got some income protection insurance so that if anything happened, you're okay. Then we'll say to them, look, as soon as you've got a good amount of surplus, come and see us. We'll do an investment plan for you. Once you've got 100,000 for a deposit for a home, come and see us. We'll do some mortgage broking for you. So we sow the seeds of when are the points in time in the next decade to come and see us. They already know us. They've met us a couple of times with a home visit. You've got that rapport with them and that sort of thing. So, I haven't done that by chance. That's been something I've done for 18 years to make sure that we're getting the next generation comfortable to come and see us. Now, some of that next generation might have friends who are mortgage brokers, and that's fine. But if we can help them, we're happy to help them.
So a couple of things that really excite me about that process that you've described there is the way that you are educating the younger generations coming through. You're giving them some very clear, decision points or points of reference of when they need to act on the next thing or when's a good time. And then not just when to act, but this is what you need to do at this point. So very clear process there, education, clear process, and staying in contact. And correct. I think that's a great way of looking at it. And I'm going to steal some ideas from our conversation today because I can see some opportunities here for us. But that is a great process. Now, what I'm going to say to our listeners here is if your advisors are not working with you and working through the process and got a plan, then you need to ask them why not. And if they can't answer that question, you may need to ask the question, well, who can and should be advising me? Because we talked about having a process for all of your sales, but one of the biggest sales, even if it's not actually a sale, but it might be a transfer of wealth, is your business. For a small business owner, that is one of the biggest sales you're going to make. So it's worth investing the time now, whether that sale is in 10, 15 years' time, worth investing the time now. Get good advice from somebody, and if you can manage to get on to Inbam's client listing, then that's going to be a great bonus for you. He can help with the financial planning, and look, come and have a chat to me. We'll help you with the accounting and business side of your wealth creation strategy. But certainly there's some great tips in there, and look. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation because I've certainly loved not just catching up with Inbam from a friend from many years, but listening to the way that he's engaging with not just the current business owners, but the next generation, and having a definite pathway of how to transfer that wealth in a comprehensive and complete way that's going to, really benefit all parties.
Thanks for having us on, Paul. Always nice to share ideas, and I really appreciate the chance to share with you today.
Yeah, thank you. I've really appreciated it. It's been great catching up with you. Look, I think there's going to be some questions coming out of this, so it'd be lovely to get you back on to answer those, because I can already see some questions that our listeners are going to be asking us. So if you're willing, we'd love to have you back to talk about those questions at a future time.
That sounds great. Would love to.
Okay, fantastic. That's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind Your Business. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and valuable for your business journey. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with fellow business owners who could benefit, and send in your burning questions because we love hearing from you. Missed any of our previous episodes or looking for additional resources to help grow your business? Head over to our website at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. There you'll find our full archive of past episodes, along with show notes, transcripts, and links to valuable resources mentioned in each episode. Your journey to business success continues at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and keep building the business of your dreams.